Yes, this is another video on the Maruti Suzuki Dzire. This is another QuickEase video. Now, if you've already seen the first video that we put out, which has absolutely pathetic lighting, I just want to tell you that our flight got delayed, then we got stuck in traffic for 2.5 hours, and we literally only got the car for about a half an hour. So we brought you what we could, but as I promised in that video, we'll do another video. So this is that other video. This is, of course, the car now out in the open, out in the daylight. And again, I'm going to take you through the car, just generally take you through the car quickly without giving you my opinion. Now, as you've already seen the car yesterday, the car looks much sharper than what any Dzire has ever been. And unlike any Dzire in the past, this is not really based on the Swift's body panels either. So every single panel that you see, the bonnet, the front fender, the bumpers, even the roof line, even the A-pillar, all of this, the roof itself, and of course the rear end is completely bespoke to the Dzire. So that's completely different from every other Dzire in the past. This is of course the 4th generation of the Dzire. And let's, I think, come to the front and have a quick sort of more in-depth look at the grille, because again, as I mentioned, much sharper. Everything is very, very sharp. Everything is very angular. And that's, of course, because of the fact that the Amaze looks that way, and the Amaze is something that does really well. Not as much as the Dzire in terms of sales, but I think the Dzire has progressed to a much nicer looking car. Now, that is, of course, an opinion, but it's also general fact. It is a nicer looking car now. We'll talk about the LED headlamps in just a bit, because I'm going to go inside and turn them on and show you what they do. Come to the side profile for a little bit, and let's just talk about the wheels. Now, these are 185/65 R15, exactly the same wheel size and tire from the Swift, but not the same design. So it's a little more modern looking, little more richer looking, if you call it that, a little less sporty also. And then, of course, you've got a sunroof, which we'll talk about again when we get in the car. But again, this is the first Dzire that ever has a sunroof, and also the first time the segment has had a sunroof in general. Now, let's talk about this section, because this, of course, is what the Dzire in the past has all been about. Till here, this was a Swift, always, and then, of course, a boot was added in. This time around, much smoother angle to the C-pillar, and this whole section looks like it's more naturally integrated in. Again, as I mentioned, this was designed from scratch as a sub-4-meter sedan, not as a Swift first and then a sedan. And this was designed in India. So the design team in India has actually done a bunch of stuff on this car to make it look as it is. There are a couple of people who say that the rear is, try not to give an opinion, but the rear is what it is. And yeah, you can put some accessories on it. We'll probably put some pictures of accessorized cars. You can put a little accessory on this section here to make it a little busier. That's all I'm going to say. This spoiler comes standard on all variants and is body colored or body painted. So that's also a good thing. It's a separate piece. They actually wanted to make it the same piece, but they made it a separate piece because molding this sort of complex curve is very, very difficult. So to make things easier for their stamping processes, they made this separate piece for a spoiler. Now, since we're at the back, let me just quickly show you the boot. Now, the boot can't be accessed like the Swift or the Baleno just by pressing the unlock button. There is a separate lever, or you can do it from your key fob as well. But the boot in general, again, is quite large. We've got all our stuff in it currently. But as you can see, this big bag, I'm just going to put it out. This size bag goes in nice and smoothly. There's still a lot of place to sort of play around with. Of course, you can put backpacks. You can put large bags in here for sure. This still has a bit of a big, what do you call it? Big bracket. So it does sort of intrude a little bit into space when it goes down. But honestly, large enough boot. And when this has a CNG tank, which sort of goes here, you still have a decent sized boot to contend with, right? So that's the exterior of the Swift Dzire. Let's quickly go in the front. Sorry, not the Swift Dzire, just the Dzire. Because from the last generation, it was called only Dzire. Let me move the camera up front and show the LED headlights, because unlike what Maruti's LED headlights in the past have been, projectors and then LED bulbs, this one is slightly different, right? So we're going to just turn the car on just a little bit, and that's the standard DRL mode. And then this, of course, is the headlight, and the fog lamp is also on and off right now. You can turn it on and off, also LED. And then you've got the high beam also as an LED unit. Now, as you can actually see, right, that's the welcome message. As you can actually see, there's 6 individual LED units inside the headlamp. So it's not like one big projector that's doing all the work. A couple of them are for the low beam, couple of them are for the high beam, and it's all very neatly integrated. This LED daytime running light and this chrome piece sort of line up, and in the aftermarket, all of this is going to go into a light bar I am dead sure, 100%. This panel will be changed immediately from people at Karol Bagh, and you'll get a nice light bar running across the car for sure. Okay, so that's the exterior done. Let's move on to the interior. And when we go to the interior, we'll also talk about the specs of the car. A lot of people do want to know that. Okay, so we've seen this interior before on the Swift. Of course, there are big changes that we'll talk about, but generally, in terms of design language, it's all very, very simplistic. It's all exactly where you expect it to be. So you've got these analog dials with a little this instrument display in the center, which is digital, which we can't really see right now. Yeah, now you go. So very, very clear, very crisp looking dials in general. And of course, you've got the Maruti steering wheel with the controls on it, which we've seen over the last few years. Obviously, start and stop and the little remote you get. So the blue obviously denotes mild hybrid, which you have like a start-stop system in this as well. But in general, it's very, very simple. You've got a little cluster here for your climate control, and you've got the screen for your infotainment. This actually is a really nice screen. They do it really well. Nice and crisp user interface as well. Not super complex as some cars do. In this, you get, of course, all the faux wood. So it's like this almost bronzish tint, light wood, almost like a driftwood, bamboo-ish wood finish. And then, of course, you got beige everywhere. Now, a lot of people have said that black would be preferred, and I agree. I like black interiors more than beige interiors. But you have to realize this segment of people love beige interiors. They're more conventional segment. They're more sort of traditional segment. And for that traditional segment, the beige interior actually works really, really well. Now, you don't have leather seats, obviously. That's something you can put as an aftermarket thought, at the dealer, or maybe aftermarket completely. You get cloth seats, and they're very, very basic. They're very simple, nothing complex at all. You get a sunroof. Now, again, as I mentioned, first in class in this category, never been done before in a compact sedan, and never been done in a Dzire either. Okay, now, the rear seat is actually really, really important in the Dzire for two reasons. One, a lot of people are going to buy these as chauffeur-driven cars or some sort of driver driving it, or people in the back seat are actually going to be given importance because your parents will be in the back, or your children, etc. And, of course, let's not discount the fact that these are going to be eventually making their way into a taxi segment. So, you and I, people who take Ubers and Olas, are going to actually spend a fair bit of time in the rear seat. So, rear seat, which is comfortable, is actually an important thing for this car. Now, if I sit completely upright, it's a bit of an issue because my head does touch the sort of this little bar on the roof. So there is a little bit of a scooped out area, but this little section here, the end of the roof liner, actually does hit my head right here. But if I sit a little more comfortably, in a little more laid back fashion, a little scooted down, then it doesn't really touch. Then you've got a bit of a little wiggle room on the top. But again, I'm 5'10 and a half. So anybody taller than me will have a slight issue. But even if I do sit in a slightly more slouched fashion, in the past, my legs would have been touching the steering, sort of the front seats. And this seat is in my driving position, so it's a little bit behind. And you still have a lot of space left over, or sort of wiggle your knees around with. Now, of course, you have a fold-down center armrest. You have a rear AC vent. As I mentioned, it cools your knees and also cools your nuts. And you've got two USB slots. So you've got a USB-A and a USB-C. Sorry, USB-C and USB-A slot right here. Also, you've got a little storage area in the back of the passenger seat, but none in the back of the driver's seat. That is a little weird. They should have had one here as well. Otherwise, pretty basic interior at the back. Again, everything is beige. Everything is light colored. I like these sort of textured side panels there in the front as well. But overall, nothing really to talk about in terms of like crazy features here. It's simple. It's plain. It does exactly what it's supposed to do. That's what the Dzire is. Okay, let's talk about the specs on the car. Okay, so a lot of people are going to hate this fact, but the Dzire also comes with the same 3-cylinder engine that the new Swift actually comes with. So let's actually, where's the rod gone? There it is. Let's put this down and quickly talk about what this engine is. Now, as I mentioned, 3-cylinder, so yes, it is slightly noisier. It is slightly rougher. But when you actually do get to use it and drive it, you really start to like it. And that's exactly what's happened when we've been using the Swift for the last few months now, the normal Swift. And actually, I do enjoy this engine quite a lot. It's not got outright horsepower like the turbo 1 liter in the Fronx does, but it's a fun engine. It's got soul. Okay, so 82 horsepower, 112 Newton meters, and I actually have the fuel economy figures right here in my pocket. So let me read them out. The automatic is 25.71 kilometers per liter, and the manual is 24.79. Now, this is a Dzire. Remember, Those figures are probably the most important figures that any Dzire owner actually wants. And at 920, 930 kilos, the car is also quite light. So overall, this should be a very fuel economical car, especially when the CNG version comes around in a few months. So there you have it, a more detailed video in proper lighting this time around. We apologize for the last video. It was done in a bit of a rushed manner, but you guys did watch it and a lot of people did comment on it. But now you can watch it in a little more clarity. The car looks obviously much better in the daytime. So tell me, what do you think of the new Dzire? Do you really like it? Do you sort of, does it grow on you in general? What do you think? Right? Tell me in the comment section below as usual. We'll read and we'll reply to everything. Cool. See you guys. This has been QuickEase. Slightly long, but nonetheless, new Dzire.